The Morgan Thomas Show. Brought to you by Black's Tire Inc.
What's up, everyone? Welcome to the Morgan Thomas Show. I'm your host and producer, Morgan Thomas, and we are live in Greenville, South Carolina. Wherever you may be watching, welcome to the show. Joining me tonight, as always, is my co-host and good friend, Big Al, Alan Adams. Welcome to the show, Al.
Man, it's good to be here again on a beautiful Monday night. Man, it's hard to get used to saying Monday night when we're always on Wednesdays. So now I'm coming from girls gymnastics as opposed to my youth meeting, so it's a little bit different atmosphere for me. But another good night to talk Tigers as always.
No complications for me. I just come straight from work and get into Clemson football, do a little bit of studying from the SEC to the ACC, but most importantly, your Clemson Tigers. We talk all things Clemson football, basketball, baseball, whatever's going on, we like to talk about it. And we're also on Facebook, YouTube, the Roar Radio, and anywhere you can really check us out as a podcast, anywhere you listen to a podcast, Apple, Google, iHeartRadio, Spotify, we're all over the place. So go check us out, and you can check us out on Twitter. Alan, it's a ghost account, but for me, at Clemson Morgan, and we enjoy talking to you as well. A lot of things going on this weekend, some big news, and we're going to definitely cover it, and we're excited to get into it. But before we do, I want to let you know about tonight's main sponsor. This show is presented to you by Black's Tire Inc., located in Westminster, South Carolina. Family owned and operated since 1971. If you need new tires, brakes, alignments, tire repair, or just looking for a friendly professional to help answer your questions, check out Black's Tire Inc., located 1415 East Main Street, Westminster, South Carolina. Give them a call, 864-647-9292. We would appreciate it. Al, right now, kind of getting started off over on YouTube. Got a couple people jumped in. Clemson Carson, Delta Charlie, Randy, Bo, welcome to the show. Got about 6 watching right now. Make sure you like the video. 7, we're jumping up. Make sure you like the video and share the video with your friends so that we can get it out there and talk about some Clemson Tigers. We got the open phone lines again, the Buffalo Wild Wings hotline on Woodruff Road, 864-772-6674. Check that out in the show comments as well for the phone number if you need it. 2 open phone lines. They're open right now so you can get in. Al, what you got over on Facebook?
Well, right now it's looking like we got about 8. I think something may be wrong with the view counter, though, because we usually start real strong on Facebook with about 20. I keep seeing people pop in, and the number's not changing. But I see some of our regulars in here, Kevron and Evan. I saw BJ Henderson, of course, come in, and Joey and Keith, and Megan is watching. Megan, we appreciate you getting in tonight for sure. And I see Josh just popped up as well. So we got a good steady stream over here that's popping in. I think something's wrong with the number counter, though. So, we're going to assume we've got, 20 plus right now.
8 is not enough. 7's not enough. I'm trying to get over on Facebook right now and get in. If you've heard of anything, this thing called a share button. It's got a little arrow on it. First, before you hit the share button, just go ahead and hit the like button, and you can send it out to your friends after that and share it. So we'd appreciate that. I'm going to go ahead and share it to a couple of Clemson groups. If you're not a part of these groups, there's some pretty cool groups out there. So you got Clemson Nation, Clemson Junkies, and then Clemson this thing called Tiger share button. I'm playing a replay of myself now. It's weird to hear yourself, but anyways. So if you don't mind, go over there, share it for us. We would appreciate it. Got a lot to talk about this weekend, as we said, Al. Some good things for Clemson football, some bad things for college football as a whole. But let's get started. Let's just jump right into segment number 1. Serious injury there, and something that our thoughts and prayers go out to him for sure. But it was definitely something that was pretty controversial because they were up by so many points before halftime, right before halftime, really. As you can see there in the video that we're playing, you can see when they're in the huddle, it seems like Nick Saban wasn't originally going to let him go back out there. And then he comes over and kind of pats him on the shoulder. We don't know what he said, but Nick Saban laughs, which he rarely ever does. And then he goes back into the game. Now, a lot of people are saying he should have never been in the game. This is why you take people out. This is why you take your starters out when it's a blowout like that.
Yeah.
I don't necessarily know if I feel that way from the start, but what did you think?
Yeah, it's really a difficult call. I mean, to be honest, I think most teams kind of keep their starters in, at least a little bit into the second half. I mean, Clemson does the same thing with Trevor Lawrence. He was playing into the third quarter as well. So it's kind of really difficult to go by as far as that's concerned. I mean, every situation's different. I think in this case, one of the things I kind of thought about while I was watching the game is that, Saban probably thought, at this point with the loss to LSU and not going to be able to, or most likely not going to be able to make the championship game in the SEC. I mean, he's going to need to blow out people to kind of make a statement that Alabama still deserves a chance if a spot were to open up. Obviously, one of the Pac-12 teams or somebody would probably have to fall off in order for that to happen, in order for Bama to sneak back into the picture. But I mean, you kind of got to play as if you still got a chance, right? So I think a lot of people still want to talk about Bama. They're still a household name. They're still a big brand. So anything that they can do to kind of keep their hopes alive, I think they're going to do it. I know Saban, I think, said after the game that he was wanting to practice the 2-minute drill with Tua, and I don't believe that one bit. Actually, Tua's been through a million 2-minute drills, so I don't think that was a problem. I think that was more of an excuse, but at the same time, I don't think he needed an excuse. I mean, like I said, people play their starting quarterbacks into the third quarter all the time. So it's not anything you have to apologize for. It's just kind of an unfortunate situation. He could have got hurt the very first play of the game. It's just kind of the way football goes.
Yeah, I saw on Twitter immediately people saying, hey, he should have never been in the game. That's ridiculous. What was Nick Saban thinking? He doesn't care about his players. I don't believe that he doesn't care about his players at all. When I look back, and I I'm not an elite player at all. I played soccer in high school and walked on at Anderson and was a tackle dummy, basically. I was a practice dummy. But even in the short amount of time that I played sports, I remember going out there, and even Al, when you and I played basketball, I remember going out there, you played one game, you wanted to play 2 more games that night. Hey,
right.
A game was over, I wanted to go play a pickup game, outside or something. I just wanted to keep playing. And these guys, you got to remember, they're 21, 22 years old, 20 years old. And so they're wanting to play as much as they can. They're not going to get a chance when they're probably 40, like most of us, or 35, or hey, even me, 32. You're not going to get a chance to play like that anymore. And so you got to take advantage of it. I remember before I tore my ACL, and I've torn my right ACL twice, and it's a very hard road to come back. But I remember that feeling of that no fear of injury. I never thought of injury. I never went into a game saying, oh man, what happens if I get hurt? I think if you're thinking that way, you shouldn't be playing at all, because who knows what you're going to do. You're probably going to do some more dangerous stuff if you're worried about getting injured. And you're constantly trying to brace yourself. How many people do you see get hurt bracing themselves?
Right.
I mean, that kind of happened to Justin Ross this weekend. He kind of tried to brace his fall and rolled up on his wrist. I mean, you can't plan for that kind of stuff. And that's for me. Hey, now after having a major knee surgery, when I go out and play with my daughter or play a pickup game with some kids at church, it's always in the back of my mind. I got injured before. I would give anything to go back and not have to worry about that, really. So I don't blame anybody for saying they didn't think about getting injured, because I think that's the way you have to play. Yeah. But I know a lot of people are saying, well, he was up by so much. But if you look at Trevor Lawrence, like you just mentioned, Clemson and a lot of other coaches out there, they're not taking their quarterback out in the first half. For me, if I was a coach, I would say even in a blowout, you need to play through the first half. We've seen the problem with that in this year with Charlotte game. It looked like Trevor Lawrence got taken out way too early. And then the very next game against UNC, he was kind of rusty. It was almost like he had been sat down for two and a half weeks. So I wouldn't say, because at that point, if you're only playing 2 or 3 snaps or 2 or 3 series, you basically didn't even play that week. So it's almost like you have to play him some. And I mean, like Nick Saban said, he is the starter. That's how we treat him. You don't think it's going to happen like that. And that accident, and I listened to Kelly this today at lunch. She read some of the medical stuff behind that. That was a freak accident, man. I mean, that just to have something like that pop out a joint and then also fracture. Some people say, well, he already came into the game injured, but that was his ankle, and they had already had surgery on it, and it was something that they were familiar with last year, so they kind of knew how to handle it. It wasn't something super similar. This was a completely different thing, and I don't know. Maybe we're way off base. Maybe I'm off base. Maybe Alan's off base. I don't know. Let us know what you think in the comments over on YouTube and Facebook. Let us know. Are we off base? Or should he have taken him out early? Another big question that came in was not only should he or should he not have played, but another question was, now should they drop, even though they won, should they drop a lot in tomorrow night's college football rankings? Because everybody knows that he's out for the season.
Yeah, I don't know that they should necessarily drop all that much. I mean, I think we've seen enough of Mac Jones to think that he's a serviceable quarterback at least. And they're still Alabama. They still have Alabama playmakers, so I don't think they're going to drop too much. I mean, they maybe a spot or two or something like that, but I don't think it's that big a deal really going forward. I think I don't want to say they're about the same team with Mac Jones as they are with Tua, because that's not exactly what I mean. But I think they fall about the same place in the top 10 for me. It's just, like I said, a spot or two difference, and I don't think that's that big a deal. We're getting a lot of people in, on Facebook talking about kind of saying the exact same things that you were talking about earlier about he was already injured going into the game. I know you mentioned that earlier. Corey gets in and talks about, Tua is a competitor and wants to be in the game, and he's 100% right. I mean, that's a lot of these guys want to be in the game. Kind of a question that somebody got in, I kind of wanted to get your thoughts on. I heard a little bit of them talking about it today. I think Kelly was talking about it as well. It says, how far could Tua drop in the draft with all these injuries in college? And now, obviously, there's something to play out there. Obviously, they've got to kind of take these next several months and kind of see how he responds. And especially, I mean, come draft time, I think that's April, something like that. I mean, they'll kind of know a little bit better about how he's progressing and, how things are going there. But I think it could make a significant impact on his draft stock, maybe having him fall all the way out of the first round, at least as a possibility. What are your thoughts on that?
If it were me and I was a GM, I wouldn't take somebody that couldn't start this next season coming up.
Right.
What we're hearing is that it is way too out there to say that he's going to be ready in 6 months. That's way too soon. This is not something that you can really, because of the fracture, because of the dislocation there. This is something that basically something similar ended Bo Jackson's career. Mm-hmm. And so this is something that you got to take very serious. Kelly was mentioning that the doctors that they had around them said that he's going to make a full recovery, but that it's more likely going to be 12 months. So you're talking about this time next year, ready to play football again. That's a big, big deal right there. I mean, you're talking about, remember just a few years ago, you'd think ACL was more of a 12-month. Now we're seeing it's more 6-7 month. Some cases in the elite of elite, 5 months. But for me, it was 12 months. Everybody's a little bit different. You can't just say cut and dry going to be 12 months because it all depends on how his body responds to the rehab. That's what's interesting about rehab nowadays is back in the day, my dad used to tell me about how if you got injured, you would basically laid up in a hospital for days. But nowadays, especially when I had my surgery and you're seeing all these other guys get surgery, they immediately start walking around. They immediately start lifting light weights, maybe rubber band type stuff. They try to do squats. They try to do twists and turns, and they try to actually start moving it from day one or day two after the major surgery, which is crazy to say, but that's kind of what they've seen as work best. And I believe that works best I think that works in Tua's favor for a quicker recovery because he's got the best of best facilities, just like Deshaun Watson had, just like Amari Rodgers has. He has the best, so he's going to get the best. And as long as he puts his mind to it and doesn't get discouraged and stays focused on what's coming, because 12 months is a long time, he will be able to get out of it. But as far as being a first-round draft pick this year, some are even speculating that because of this injury, he just goes ahead and stays his last year at Alabama, stays one more year at Alabama because he can do that too. I wouldn't necessarily say that. It really all depends on what the draft scouts are saying that he'll get drafted. Maybe it's one of those things, kind of like the NBA, where Kevin Durant is injured, but you go ahead and take him anyways because there's nobody else like him. I don't know. I'm a little nervous about Tua, not because of injuries, but he's also injury prone. If you can tell, I mean, he gets like 1-2 surgeries a year, which I'm not knocking him. I'm just saying this is a reality for him. Yeah. But also, we know from Clemson playing him and from watching other games that he's a slinger. He doesn't like to do anything but go for the deep ball or go for the big play. He has a lot of tendencies on that. I'm not saying Trevor Lawrence hasn't as well, but he seems to be doing that a lot. And you got to kind of be more versatile with that. You can't be a one-trick pony when it comes to the NFL because they will eat you alive. Those defenses can adjust. They're not like those strong SEC defenses that can't seem to adjust. But as far as will they drop in the rankings tomorrow night, my thought is I don't think they're going to drop this week. It depends on what Mac Jones does next week against Western Carolina. It falls perfect for them, Western Carolina, and then Auburn now becomes an even more difficult game. That's a road game. Mac Jones has 65 passes this year. Chase Bryce has 75. A lot of people say, well, Chase, Dabo Swinney likes to play his players. Chase Bryce doesn't have that many pass attempts any more than Mac Jones does, but Mac Jones definitely has a lot less, and they've blown out a lot of teams. So he's been sitting a lot. Yeah. So that's my concern there. Another concern I have for you, Al, they only scored 3 points the rest of that game. They came back after halftime, scored 3 points, and that was it. They had a punt, they had a turnover on downs, and I believe that was it. They really didn't even have that many possessions in the second half. So for me, that's a concern. They definitely have, as Mark Packer says, those Frisbee catching dogs, but it is a concern for me that they weren't able to really score after that.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I actually didn't get to see the second half of that game. I saw the first, or I saw rewatched the first half, I guess just to say, and saw the injury, but I didn't get to see the second half. So I knew they had only scored a few points. I didn't know how it happened, if it was crazy, if it was just kind of one of those things, or if Mac Jones just didn't play that well. I wasn't really sure as far as how that went. But yeah, I don't really think they're a playoff team anyways. I mean, I think they have to have a lot to happen to get into the playoffs. So I don't really think it's really going to matter. I don't care if they drop a spot or two. They have Western. I think you said Western Carolina before they go to the Plains and play Auburn. I don't think it's going to matter because I just don't think they're going to get in anyways. I think it's kind of one of those moot points where you're talking about a little more than we really need to, because I don't think it's going to make a difference in the end.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I would be very frustrated if a one-loss Oregon doesn't make it, and a one-loss Alabama makes it with Mac Jones. I don't know. I just would be very upset with that, because he's not the guy that got him to that one loss. He's the guy that came in against a cupcake team and then against an Auburn team, which I think is beatable by most top 10 teams, really. I think Auburn is not even, they were overrated all year, really. So he's going to come in at a time where he could very easily get 2 wins, and it could very easily be an issue where Georgia or LSU beats up each other and then they jump them, and then Oregon and them, I don't know. Like I said, I don't even want to go down that road, because I don't want somebody's backup quarterback being in there. But then I did have my boss tell me today, can't knock backup quarterbacks. Look at Ohio State. I think they won it all with their third-string quarterback one year, so can't really knock backup quarterbacks. But that's it for segment number 1. We appreciate you joining us tonight over on Facebook and YouTube. And if you're watching the replay over on our podcast or YouTube or on the Roar Radio 105.5 FM, man, everywhere you want to listen to or watch college football information or Clemson, we're there. So we come to you, baby. But let us know what you think about everything in the comments over on Facebook, YouTube. We have a call-in line. That's the Buffalo Wild Wings of Greenville, South Carolina, right on Woodruff Road in the shops at Green Ridge. 864-772-6674. Get in. We got 2 open phone lines. I don't see anybody in there right now, but let's jump in and talk about what you want to talk about. We'd appreciate it. But Alan, how many you got over on Facebook? I got 27 on YouTube.
Well, I got to tell you, obviously, I told you this counter wasn't working, but I did refresh the page, and the last time I refreshed, we were at 37 on Facebook. So Facebook going strong as usual. I like my Facebook people over here. They always do a good job. They're getting in the comments and kind of participating just like we like it. So remember, don't forget, hit the like, hit the share, follow, do it all, ladies and gentlemen. I did see Glenn shared the stream earlier, so we appreciate that. If you're watching and you haven't shared it, you're doing it wrong. I've told you that before. So get in and share the show. We really appreciate everybody's support.
You are doing it wrong, man. James over on YouTube is saying that we are the best. That makes me feel pretty good. If you watch the show long enough, you will quickly realize that we got a lot of problems. But I hope you enjoyed the little segment that you had. I think it went pretty smooth. But like I said, let us know what you think over in the comments and in Facebook and YouTube. We're going to take a quick 30-second break. Stay with us. When we get back, we'll talk about the ACC and what happened this week and give you our review of the Clemson and Wake Forest game. Again, we're on Facebook, YouTube, The Roar, and wherever you listen to podcasts. We'll be right back after this. Welcome back to the Morgan Thomas Show with my co-host Big Al, Alan Adams. Open phone lines again over on the Buffalo Wild Wings of Greenville, South Carolina hotline, 864-772-6674. Jump on the line. We'll make sure to get you if while we're live here tonight. Everybody's saying we should be on the ACC network. We appreciate that. Hey, move over, Packer and Durham. Actually, don't move over because I do not want to wake up that early. But I wouldn't mind hanging out in Packer's basement. If you guys haven't checked out that show, I really start watching that show right when I wake up. So, I mean, I have to be at work around 8 o'clock. I live pretty close to my work, so I got a luxury of that. I don't even listen to the radio anymore. I just jump in, pop on YouTube TV, play Packer and Durham just kind of on my phone. It's pretty rigged up, but I should get like a Bluetooth connection or something. But I love the show. I think it's great. I think it's exactly what the ACC needs. They're just going to make it even better as it keeps going. You've got our friend Eric McLean, those guys over on the Huddle Friday and Saturdays, and then you've got Packer and Durham every weekday in the morning, and really gets that face of the ACC. You get to learn a lot more. I'm somebody who I only really want to listen and talk about Clemson, but it's good to kind of get to know the other teams, especially there's a lot of teams that are getting better as the season goes on, and a lot of excitement coming on, a lot of good coaches, good young coaches in the ACC that I think are going to be better a couple of years down the road, already showing that they're turning programs around. So it's exciting. But we appreciate you guys saying that we should be on the ACC network. We appreciate that for sure. But I want to let you know that Alan and I, we really pride ourselves in high quality show every single week. So we appreciate the support, but we also pride ourselves in dressing for success. As you can see, I'm wearing a Tiger Sports Shop exclusive apparel, exclusive polo. This is kind of their lavender with a Clemson Tiger paw on the left side pocket here. Golf polo, very breathable. I enjoy it. I could wear it every single day, but people would make fun of me at that point. They'd think kind of stink there. But it's a great shirt. They have a whole line there, all different colors of this shirt, I think. And then Alan has, if you have seen other shows, Alan's got an orange and a white one. And I think they have a Cutter and Buck that Alan has wore. I've got some Columbia shirts and some Nike shirts, so that's where I always go to get my Clemson apparel, downtown Clemson and on the highway there on Tiger Boulevard. What you got, Al?
Actually, I am wearing one of my Cutter and Buck Dry Tech polos. It's like a black and orange kind of plaid with a white base. Obviously, this is a great polo. Got the classic Clemson paw on there as well. It's one of the most lightweight ones they have. But they have Cutter and Buck. They have Antigua. They have Tommy Bahama. They have, of course, the Tiger Sports Shop brand that they've just come out with. Like we were talking about, same quality, more affordable price. So definitely check those out for sure if you want to dress for Clemson success, and you definitely want to check out Tiger Sports Shop either downtown or on US 123 Bypass.
And man, they've been around forever. Started by a coach of the Clemson men's soccer team that was a Hall of Famer, a national championship guy, ran by his wife, Julie. She does a great job there. And also the general manager is Sean Cartmill, who was a goalie for that national championship team. If you didn't know, Clemson played number 2 Virginia Sunday for the ACC championship. They started out quick with a 1-0 goal there, but then after the second half, it kind of fell off. 3-1 loss for the Tigers there. Unfortunately, though, but the good thing is they're going to be starting the ACC tournament or the NCAA tournament very soon, and so they still have a chance to win it all. And they're a very good team. I know that if you really look at it, the ACC is just dominant in soccer. They say that they're probably going to be, I think, 10 teams in that tournament, and they're all very high seeds. So really cool there. Not just a basketball college or a conference, not just a soccer conference or a football conference, but the conference is doing well as a whole, so we appreciate that. But, Al, let's get into segment number 2, talking about the conference. We got a big weekend ahead for the ACC Coastal, kind of at the last 2 weeks of the year. Kenny Pickett had a great game, 3 touchdowns as Pitt beats UNC in overtime. You've seen it there on the screen. My first question for you, even though North Carolina lost another close one, another overtime game there, loss for the Tar Heels, even though they did, my first question for you is Sam Howell the ACC Freshman of the Year? He's got 29 total passing touchdowns, and that's better right now, at least, than Trevor Lawrence.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you have to give him strong consideration for sure. He's had a great season. I don't think a lot of people were quite expecting him to be this good. Obviously, he was an FSU decommitment, I believe, and kind of flipped over to UNC and heck, gave Clemson a run for their money. He's great on the deep ball, has good touch on the deep ball. He connects with a lot of those passes, right? And he's just really poised for a freshman quarterback. He hadn't really showed the jitters that a lot of them show, especially in their first year. It's kind of a new theme with freshmen. I think you see a lot of them getting more and more ready, sooner and sooner. A lot of them are playing early on in their careers, and he's no different. He's done a great job for kind of a UNC program who's trying to rebuild a little bit. So I think they're definitely on the right track, and I would definitely vote for him. He would get mine for sure.
Yeah, same for me too. I think Sam Howell's doing a great job. A guy that Clemson recruited actively too, so definitely a top level recruit there for the Tar Heels. And Mac Brown has done a great job turning that program around. Sky's the limit for them. Something that I kind of talked about earlier this morning with someone was my concern. And I know I'm going off script here for you, but my concern for my concern for the paying players for their likeness. You're going to have to worry about what businesses care about your brand as a football team. And there's already deep roots with Jordan in Chapel Hill. And there's already deep roots in Under Armour in Maryland and Nike in Oregon. My concern is that if they're paid for their likeness, what's to say Michael Jordan doesn't come in there and say, hey, every elite player gets a commercial for Jordan if you sign with the Tar Heels. Now I know there's a lot to work out with that, and I don't think that they're going to allow that. I hope they don't, because what's Clemson going to do? Fluor, BMW,
Yeah.
Prisma Health. I don't know what Clemson's going to do locally. Now I know there's some big time money in IPTE for sure,
Yeah.
but when it comes to advertising ability, you got to think the Tar Heels, the Marylands, the Under Armours, the Nikes, Oregon of the world. That kind of scares me in a way, because they've got family ties there, they've got legacy ties there into that school, and it would make an unfair advantage for those schools if they're paid for those advertisements. I didn't know. I know we kind of went off script, but did you have any thoughts on that?
I don't have too many thoughts on it, because this is something I cannot stand. We talked about this a long time ago. I'm not a big fan of the paying players for their likeness. I think they have enough in their package as far as getting the scholarships and getting the health care and all that kind of stuff, and the stipend and meals and everything like that. I don't think they need to be doing this. I think it complicates things to a level that nobody is prepared to handle right off the bat. I think things are complicated enough as it is. You always see impermissible benefits and teams getting in trouble for things like that. This is just going to magnify that times 1,000. I mean, you kind of give them an inch, they take a yard. They're going to offer, say you can give a player up to $10,000 or whatever some arbitrary number, and somebody's going to try to give them 20. It's just going to work that way. It's indifferent. It's unfair from state to state. Obviously, with higher cost of livings in certain state, are you going to adjust for that? Are you not going to adjust for that? Because players are going to have to think about, and obviously the coaches and the recruiters are going to have to sell that as well. Hey, I understand at Ohio State they're giving you 20 grand. We're only giving you 10 here at Clemson, but a cheeseburger costs $10 as opposed to 20 up at Ohio State. Come on. I think it's nonsense. I'm really against it, and I wish they wouldn't have kind of opened this can of worms. But like we said, a few weeks ago, once you open this can of worms, you're never going to be able to get them back in. So I'm just kind of anxious and honestly a little concerned about where this thing's headed.
Especially those teams over next to Hollywood. I mean, you look at Southern California. What's to say that they don't have some sort of deal with those studios there and say, hey, you come to Southern Cal, you can get into a movie trailer or something. I mean, hey, you can be something like that. I mean, I don't know. It's kind of sticky for sure, and I hope that they work it out. I think it's going to take a lot more than just 1 year to figure it out. I think they have since till 2023 before that law comes into effect in California. So they got to figure something out that's going to be universal, that works for everyone. I like Dabo's idea of saying that wait and hold on to the money until you graduate or until you get drafted or something like that. So at least there's some sort of future thing to look forward to, instead of just showing up, maybe having one good year and then banking your $1 million and walking away. We don't want really that, because then that kind of ruins the college culture for sure. Yeah. But moving on from that, talking about the ACC as a whole, the Coastal Division is still up for grabs with just 2 games left. Virginia Tech destroys Georgia Tech, which I believe is something that we predicted. Yep. It was a 5-point spread. Georgia Tech had played Virginia close the week before at Virginia, but we both had saw that Virginia Tech was kind of in their championship phase. Man, they're laying it on. I think they've won like 3 or 4 in a row now, Virginia Tech. Yeah. Beat Wake Forest, big team there, 38-17, then turn around and destroy Georgia Tech. They've got to play Virginia at the last game of the season, but the big game this week, and we're going to talk about our predictions in segment number 3, the big game this week is against Pittsburgh. And I think that's going to be a tough one because I saw Pittsburgh just squeak out one against UNC, which we know the Tar Heels are a good team, even though they don't have a good necessarily record. Right. But that's going to be a big battle there. I was kind of trying to crunch the numbers over on Twitter today, and you can probably see what I came up with. But if Pittsburgh beats Virginia Tech, and then Pittsburgh loses to Boston College, the last game of the season, but then Virginia Tech beats Virginia, okay, they all end up with 4 losses, and all 3 of them end up with only 2 coastal losses. So they're like 4-2 in the coastal with 4 overall losses, and they all have at least 1 loss to each other. So it like, who goes to that? Well, then the tiebreaker, I think, goes to what their non-conference record is, and I think they all have 1 non-conference loss. So I don't know. I mean, I think it's going to be some sort of crazy tiebreaker if that happens. Yeah. But the way that it won't happen is Virginia still just wins out. They got to play Liberty, beat them, and they got to play Virginia Tech at home, thankfully for Virginia. But it's definitely going to be kind of a maybe not a controversial, but a fight for the finish, if you will, for those top 3 spots up in the coastal.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, I made fun of the Hokies early and often this season, okay? I mean, and with good reason, really. You know, they had close games against Old Dominion, Furman. They were demolished by Duke. As a matter of fact, they didn't even really have a dominating performance against Delaware. You know, so they they have not been a real good team. However, you know, Hendon Hooker got his first start against Miami. And since that game, they've only got 1 loss, and that was that 1-point defeat at Notre Dame. So once they kind of made him their starting quarterback and stuck with him, they've done really good. You know, they actually, if you saw, they snuck into the AP poll at 25, and they still control their own destiny in the coastal. Like you said, all they have to do is win the next 2 weeks, playing against Pitt, and then they have to go to Virginia. Obviously, that's a tough game, you know, Virginia, but they've won. I don't know how many games they've won in a row, but they kill Virginia almost all the time. Even though Virginia's kind of thought of to be the better team, and they have them at home, it's going to be a tough one. But the Hokies are looking really good. They're playing good football right now, and I think you kind of got to. Honestly, I'm kind of leaning towards giving them the nod as far as to win the coastal kind of ballot over there. So I think they'll be the ones facing Clemson in the championship game.
So who are you saying is going to face Clemson in the championship game?
I think Virginia Tech will.
A lot of people over on YouTube are saying the exact same thing. They think that Virginia's on the downslope, not beating teams by a big amount. Think about it this way, though. If Pittsburgh ends up like in a tiebreaker against Virginia, it all goes back to that 1 loss at the very beginning of the season to Virginia. Yeah. Man, what a heartbreaker to go back and say we screwed up on the very first game of the year, or we would be in the championship game. That would be kind of frustrating, I'm sure, for those Pittsburgh guys out there. We actually got somebody on the phone lines right now. Let me jump over to our phone lines. We got Kevin over in Georgia, and or he wants to talk Georgia. So
you got Evan, I believe.
Kevin. Oh, Evan?
Evan. I know okay. Evan's on the line.
Well, you know, this is like Siri, so it says Kevin, but maybe it's Evan. We'll see. Hey, it's a surprise for us. I'm guessing now it's probably Evan, right? Let's move him on. What's up, Evan? Are you on the show? Can you hear us?
I am. What's going on, Morgan?
It's going good, man. I appreciate you getting in on the show. I know it says Evan or Kevin from Georgia talking football, but maybe it's Evan talking Georgia football. I don't know what it is, but you let me know. What you going to talk about tonight?
That would be correct. I want to kind of flip the script on you a little bit. You know, I know we normally talk about Clemson on here, but you know me, I want to flip the script and talk a little Georgia. I got to pick on Allen for a minute, and Allen, I don't know if you can hear me or not, but you picked Auburn against the spread. last week, and I feel hurt on that. Yeah, if anything, I would have expected Allen to pick Georgia along with you, Morgan. And by the way, kudos for the Go Dogs last week. I listened to the podcast. I listened to that segment, so kudos on that. Thank you. But with that being said, obviously we know that Georgia is going to win out the rest of the regular season. Alan, are you going to pick Georgia to cover the spread for the next 2 games?
That's a great question, actually. It's funny. I was going to get into a little bit of that when our Week 13 spread pick, so you'll hear a little bit about that later. But yeah, I was going to say I've been pretty hard on Georgia this year. But if you take a look back from the beginning of the show, when we started several weeks back before the season started, I picked UGA as my number 2 seed. I had them winning the SEC championship. So I had the love for Georgia. I just haven't really liked what I've seen so far this year, especially offensively. Obviously they have a great defense, but I just haven't been impressed with the offense. I don't like the play calling very much. I think they've been pretty vanilla, and it's come back to haunt them several times. Now they haven't necessarily had the losses, so that's a good thing. Obviously good teams find a way to win, and that's what they've been doing. But yeah, I picked against them. Florida, I picked against them. With Auburn, like you said, and obviously that bit me. But I think Morgan will give you a little update later. I still am the leader in that contest right now, so my picks aren't all bad. But I have given them a hard time.
Yeah.
I just think that their defense is going to have to carry them. And can it carry them? Sure, it can. I think they're gonna. I haven't decided yet whether I think they're going to play or beat Alabama or LSU in the championship game. But I do think they have a good shot to win these next 2 games. Especially against these teams. Obviously, they're going to beat Georgia Tech. I think everybody knows they're going to beat Georgia Tech. But I think they can beat A&M pretty well, and I think they're going to do a good job. It's can the defense carry them, because I don't see their offense doing it. Their offensive line has not played up to the standard of a Georgia offensive line. They've recruited nothing but 5 stars these past several years on that offensive line. They should be mauling people at the point of attack and getting pretty much whatever yardage they want every time they run the ball. It's simply not happening. So they do deserve a little bit of the grief I give them for sure, but I give them just a little extra just for you and Stephanie.
Yeah, well, we do. We know you do, and we appreciate that. But you're absolutely right on that. Our offensive line has not done what they needed to. Especially with the play calling. I think that Coley has not done what he said he was going to do as far as wanting to open up the playbook. Obviously our play calling has been very vanilla, like you said. I mean, you can almost predict what we're going to do. First down, run, second down, run, third down, pass. That is every series almost. And when we do run, what works is when we run to the outside. I have yet to see our running game work when we try to run up the middle. And to me, teams that continuously see that, such as LSU, are going to be able to beat us in the running game. They are going to be able to stop that running game, and we're not going to get anywhere. And we're going to have to depend on Jake Fromm's arm to get us anywhere.
Yeah, I think so too. I think that you're really going to have to rely on Jake Fromm. A lot of people said, and Georgia fans, granted, now said preseason that Swift was just light years ahead of anything Clemson could do and Travis Etienne, and Swift really hadn't shown up like we kind of all anticipated him to do. Travis Etienne has, in my opinion, a better year than he has. But also, we got a bunch of people, Evan, over in YouTube saying, hey, if you like the Bulldogs, you got to realize that the Gamecocks are better than the Bulldogs. So just make sure you understand that. And also got a couple people saying that the Paul Feinbaum number is 855-242-7285. So if you want to talk about the Bulldogs anymore, you're kind of getting our Tiger fans riled up. We were talking about the ACC and the Tiger. We're getting ready to talk about Clemson football, and you throw a wrench in our story here to talk about the Georgia Bulldogs. But we appreciate you. We love you, Evan, and thanks for calling in, man, and being a part of the show. let's get back to it, Al, and finish up our segment. And we'll talk more about Georgia for sure. So, Evan, don't run away from us. We're going to talk more about Georgia in segment number 3 in our pick, because they do have a big game coming up, in the SEC championship game. And I got some questions for Al on that one too. So still got some more, but open phone line still, if you want to get in on it, 864-772-6674. If you want to right the ship, maybe you're a Clemson fan out there, you want to right the ship and start talking about Clemson again, give us a call. Open phone lines for sure. But Al, let's jump over to the helmet stickers for the Clemson and Wake Forest game. I know it was a really big game. We all speculated, could Clemson keep Wake Forest under 300 total yards? And man, they just destroyed that. And almost before the game, a few minutes left to go in the game, they got 106 yards. So they almost kept them under 100 yards for the game. I don't know many people who anticipated that kind of domination. I would say that I kind of anticipated, considering 2 wide receivers are out, their main linebackers out for the season, very banged up, kind of like a NC State team, banged up as well. But I did not expect Newman to come out there and just throw 2 interceptions like he did to Muse and to Terrell. That was exciting for me to watch. I love seeing interceptions, especially those kind. Man, great position, great work on the outside there to get that turnover. Clemson's defense is just getting better and better as the weeks go on. And really, they were dominant from day one, which is so amazing to me. I know I'm drooling over the defense here. I'm not going to give the entire defense a sticker tonight like I did last week. But Al, starting me off, I'm going to say, well, you tell me, who's your offensive helmet sticker?
Offense, I gave it to T. Higgins. He didn't have a real big day as far as catches or yards are concerned. He only had 4 catches for 64 yards, but he came away with 3 touchdowns, including 2 in the final minute of the first half. So Higgins showing out for us as usual, kind of being the clutch player we all know him to be and need him to be going forward. So I'm definitely giving it to Higgins.
Now, I knew you were going to give it to Higgins. You texted me and told me this. You gave me a chance to get Higgins, and he's been very consistent all year, been that solid rock there for Clemson Tiger passing game. But somebody's got to pass him the rock, Al. And that was Trevor Lawrence. Man, did you see that dime that he threw over 2 defenders in the back of the end zone in the corner there? I mean, if that doesn't say number 1 overall draft pick, I don't know what is. I mean, we spent 5 weeks talking about Trevor Lawrence and what's wrong with him. Mm-hmm. Now you watch that play and you think, this is what we want to see out of Trevor Lawrence. And if I'm an opposing defense, no matter what my number is before my college name, I'm scared. I'm a little worried about that guy because he's getting better too. Trevor is now on pace. Really, I believe he's going to have a better year than last year, but nobody's talking about it. And it's unfortunate because everybody wants to talk about everybody else but Clemson. But there was an article that just came out about Clemson is quietly going to destroy everyone, and it looks that way. So I gave Trevor Lawrence a helmet sticker. What you got on defense?
On defense, I went with Tanner Muse. He had 4 solo tackles, two tackles for loss and a sack. He had the interception, like you said, kind of tiptoed the sideline there. So it was a great interception. Obviously, he played the ball well and jumped the route and kind of got in underneath the receiver. So I was at the very beginning of the game, from what I remember, really early on. So it was a good momentum setter, tone setter for the defense. And obviously, they went on to have a really dominating day. So a good start from Tanner Muse. I'm giving him the helmet sticker.
He didn't have the biggest stat sheet from last Saturday, but I'm going to say Tyler Davis because he has over 300, I think at 320 snaps more, or 350 or so snaps now. And to be able to do that as a true freshman after so many people lost on the defensive line, to be able to jump the guys that have been there, Pickney and Williams, and be able to not only substitute for them, which is what we expected, but start in place of them from day one is just an amazing feat. And the number of snaps he has as a true freshman was something that I only thought that would be once in a generation type Dexter Lawrence type thing. And now here we're seeing it with Tyler Davis. And I got to give him a shout out because if you have been a fan of the show since February, really, back in February, I was kind of skeptical of him. I didn't think that he was going to kind of dominate and be a starter like he was. I mean, I met him face to face. He's a very young guy. He's got that baby face. He's kind of funny. He's easygoing. He's kind of quiet, but man, is he dominant on the field, and he knows how to slip blocks. He might not be the tallest guy out there or the biggest giant guy out there, but it's very hard to block him, and he can get into your quarterback's face very quick. So I give Tyler Davis the helmet sticker. And for my $2 bill, which is the sticker for really the award for the opposing team, I'm going for Jaquez Williams. 7 solo tackles. He had to take over for Justin Stranad, who tore his bicep, out for the season. Another, like I said, injury there. Leading tackler for that team, and now he's kind of stepped into that place, had 7 solo tackles. Definitely stepping up in that linebacker position when they need it. But, unfortunately, Wake Forest hit their ceiling, and now they're on the way down.
Yeah, I know. I stole the one you were salivating over, okay? We seem to give a lot of love to punters. I gave my $2 bill to Dom Maggio, the punter for Wake. I mean, this is just another Ray guy that punts against Clemson. Every week we seem to face the best punter on the planet. It's amazing how that works. He had 9 punts, an average of 57.7 yards, and a long of 66. Look, those numbers are absolutely absurd, okay? I kept waiting on the average to kind of even out and get down a little closer to 50, but it never happened. This guy was booming them all night long. It was absolutely outstanding. I really wish Clemson could get somebody that could boom them like that. It's just incredible.
It does seem like Zach Lentz mentioned that it seems like every other team that Clemson plays has a giant punter that can just, punt out of the stadium, and Clemson can barely get it 40 yards.
Yeah.
What's frustrating to me is I hear the announcers say, "Oh, it was a short punt of 42 yards." And I'm like, "Short punt? That is Will Spires max, my man. You better give him some respect." I mean, he is going all out to get that 42 yards. I mean, he is pulling a hamstring to get those 42 yards. You're over here saying it's a short punt. Man, that's a deep one for Spires. So give him some respect. But yeah, it does seem like everybody that Clemson plays has a guy who can knock it 60 yards and knock it off the Verizon cell tower off the top of the stadium. It's crazy. But, thank you so much for hanging with us for segment number 2 in our ACC wrap-up. We also had a fan call. Evan talked about the Georgia Bulldogs. Thank you, Evan, for joining us and for being a fan really since like day one. So thank you for coming in and giving us, like Randy said, got to pet our dog sometimes, to make sure he knows that we care about him and we're still here. But it would be a great game. I think this is something that we mentioned over on ClemsonJunkies.com in our little mini article that we both thought that Georgia would get into the playoff. And I actually said that I felt like it would be Georgia beating Alabama and Alabama sneaking in. I felt like that was a possibility too. And it could still happen. It could still happen depending on how Mac Jones and them do, if they can continue to sustain their one-loss season, really. But let us know what you think about what we talked about with the ACC and the Clemson Tigers and the Georgia Bulldogs over on Facebook and YouTube. Right now we have 23 strong on YouTube, and the question so far is, do you think that this is the fastest defense ever at Clemson? Well, I can't say ever. I haven't seen all 100 and something teams that have ever played at Clemson, but we talked about this in the preseason, Alan. The linebackers cut some weight but gained a lot of lean muscle. Yeah. They're all trying to get around that 235, 240 range. Well, really not even 240. They're trying to do 235 or less, and they all met that, other than I think Reagan Upshaw didn't make that weight, but just about everybody made that 235 around range in the linebacker core, and it was so that they could get quicker, and they definitely look it.
Yeah, definitely. I wouldn't say, like you said, I haven't seen all the defenses, so I really can't comment on that. But I seriously doubt it is the fastest that Clemson has ever had. The linebackers are faster, but I still think Clemson has had some faster linebackers in the past. So I'm not going to say it's the fastest for sure. It's faster than last year's, definitely. I mean, you had Trey Lamar, who was pretty slow anchor in the middle. So obviously, with a lot of the same players, and then you add in a faster guy, at middle linebacker, and then you add a faster guy. I know our guys were fast. I know Cleveland Ferrell was fast. And I know Austin Bryant was fast. But Xavier Thomas is really fast. Okay, so I know when you add a couple guys like that in, it's going to be a little bit faster. Is it the fastest ever? Probably not. But I'd have to go back and do a little more research on that to know for sure.
Let us know what you think over on Facebook and YouTube. If you want to get in, the phone lines are open still, 864-772-6674. Hopefully we'll have time to call in to the morgue tonight and talk some Clemson football. Next segment, we're going to go over our Week 13 picks against the spread. Let you know what our percentages are right now. They're pretty good. Our win-loss record against the spread. And then we're going to wrap it all up. I'm going to try to throw in something about Clemson basketball to kind of give you a heads up of what's coming up this week and going into the rest of the November and starting into December. So hang tight. We're going to go on a 30-second break. We'll be right back. Welcome back to the Morgan Thomas Show with my co-host, Big Al, Alan Adams. Open phone lines again at the Buffalo Wild Wings of Greenville, South Carolina. Hotlines 864-772-6674. We got 2 open lines right now. Get in fast because this is the last segment before we head out. But Al, tell us about our third segment sponsor.
Ladies and gentlemen, our segment 3 sponsor is Heating Cooling Services, Inc. They are family owned and operated, serving Anderson County and surrounding areas since 1980. Heating Cooling Services, Inc. is your residential and commercial comfort expert. Anything from preventive maintenance of a home HVAC system to overhauling a commercial chiller and anything in between. If you want to be nice and cool in your home or business this summer and breathe a little easier, give Mark or Jason Trammell a call at 864-224-7655. Again, that number is 864-224-7655. These are people that I have used. They have saved me a ton of money. They're great to work with. I've known these guys for a long, long time. They'll take good care of you. So please give them a call and make sure that you tell them that you heard about them on the Morgan Thomas Show with Big Al.
And Al, we got 22 over on YouTube. How many we got over on Facebook supporting us?
As of last check-in, we had 29. I saw Mark get in. Mark's kind of been engaging on the comments a little bit. Anthony has been in with us. Al's been in with us. So we've got a lot more people watching. I did see Dad kind of jump in a few minutes ago. I don't know where he's been. I mean, he's probably going to say dancing or something like that, obviously. But he did jump in with us. So we got a lot of good activity here on the comments. There a lot of people getting in and saying they like the show. So we appreciate all the love and support, everybody.
Your dad never jumps in; he waltzes in with his dancing shoes on.
I appreciate that.
Thanks again for the support. Really do appreciate it. And being with us. Hey, this is episode number 46, and we appreciate everyone from day one when we started this show. It was all me by myself with like 3 people watching live. We were talking about the Clemson-Notre Dame game, and Clemson going to dominate that game, and sure enough, they did. And then we had about 15 people watching live and talking about Clemson going to dominate the Alabama game, and they did because they matched up perfectly. And, we've taken off since then, and now we're on the Roar. We're on Facebook. We're on YouTube. We got podcasts. A lot more coming for 2020. So hang tight, put your seatbelt on, and join us. Be with us. We want you to be along for the ride, so we appreciate it for sure. I know that we don't talk much about basketball because our viewers, nobody really wants to watch basketball stuff for Clemson. I know we're not Duke. I know we're not UNC. So I'm going to run through this real quick. November schedule for the Clemson men's basketball team. Virginia Tech was the first game of the season, November 5th. At home, they lost. It was a tough game. Their starting point guard for Virginia Tech scored like 30-something points on us, which I think he's a really good guy, and he's going to probably score 30 on a lot of people. But it was a first loss. It was a big game, first loss, completely restructured Clemson team and Virginia Tech team, but Virginia Tech came away with the win. And it was really, some things were shot in the foot for Clemson. Some free throws were bad. Some three-point shooting got cold in the second half. So I believe that Clemson could have won that game. They just got kind of cold at the second half, which, yes, I know what you're going to tell me. Repeat of last year. I get it. But it's not really. This team is a lot different than last year. They turn around November 7th, Presbyterian, get a win. Our show wasn't on the air because of that game, but they get a win against that game. And then a Colgate team. People are saying, Colgate, what's the big deal with Colgate? Okay, Colgate was an NCAA tournament team. So they're a good team to play against, and they're no pushover for sure. And they actually had the lead late in the second half, but Clemson did what they needed to do, and they shot a lot better in that game. And then on November 17th, really just yesterday, they beat Detroit Mercy and won that. So right now, looks like they're 3-1. And they're going into the 21st of November, Alabama A&M. And I don't think that's going to be a problem. Alabama A&M doesn't have any wins. They have a very hard time scoring any points. I think that's going to be a win. So give Clemson 4-1. Now, then they travel to Las Vegas for a tournament. If they can win this tournament, it will be a redemption for losing to Virginia Tech. Because if they win a TCU game, the 24th, that is a tough team to beat. They are scoring 90 points a game right now and just shooting lights out right now. So TCU is a really difficult game right before, or what is that, the week before Thanksgiving or the week of Thanksgiving, that Sunday. So TCU is a difficult team, but I think if they can get that win, I think Tevin Mack's doing good. Hunter Tyson's got his shot on now, and John Newman is doing good. And Amir Sims is, pretty consistent as well. This team, led by Tevin Mack, can win some close games this year. I believe in them. So they got to do it with TCU. If they win that game, then they go on to either play Wyoming or Colorado 2 days later. So they could potentially finish, let's see, 1, 2, 3, and then so 6-1 going into December, which would be perfect for them because December is going to be tough too. Beginning of December, they got to go to Florida State. You know how playing at Florida State is. We never can seem to get a win at Florida State. And Florida State is a team that's on a high right now. They just beat Florida recently, a couple of days ago. But that's kind of a quick overview of Clemson basketball of this month. Any thoughts from you, Al, before we quickly move on?
Well, I like when you're just giving out wins. I know you're giving us the Alabama A&M game. I appreciate that. I'll take any win I can get, especially if Morgan says it's a done deal. It's a done deal, and I'm just not going to worry about it anymore. I did want to talk real quick about this past game. Like you said, Hunter Tyson had a big game against Detroit Mercy. Okay, and it's about time. We've been talking about Hunter Tyson for quite a while now and how he's such a good shooter in practice. When are we going to start seeing it in games? Well, we saw it. Okay, the other night he did a great job. He had 20 points, I believe. He just hadn't really been able to get it going offensively. I don't know if it's confidence. I don't know if he's just, not a gamer, if he's just not getting consistent enough minutes. Whatever it was, it doesn't matter. Hopefully he has found it, and now we can use that going forward as get him some confidence and kind of boost that so he can do better from behind the three-point arc for sure, because Clemson really needs that going forward to stretch the floor. Amir Sims, had a good game with 19 points. He had 8 rebounds. He kind of showed the ability to be the leader that Clemson needs him to be. Going forward, the leader we all thought he was going to be as the most experienced guy coming back for sure. Tevin Mack, like you said, continues to impress. He had 18 points. He's been doing rock solid since he got here. So that's a big puzzle piece that they were able to add in the offseason. The young guards, Dawes and Hunter, they need to continue to kind of adjust to the college game and get more comfortable as scorers. Obviously, they kind of went in that huge drought in the second half of the Virginia Tech game, which we've already spoken about, and kind of handed Clemson his first tough loss, and unfortunately it was an ACC loss as well. But they'll get more comfortable as they go along. Obviously, they're going to improve offensively and defensively. I think they got the athleticism to hang in there defensively, but we need to get some more consistent scoring from the point guard position.
All right, so that's it for the basketball overview. Check in with the Clemson men's basketball team. Maybe we should have Brad Brownell on to tell us about it, but maybe I'll get some basketball expert to come talk about it. But Randy said we need a Vernon Hamilton type player. I think those 2 freshman guards are going to be the real deal when they can, like you said, get that consistency going, get that game experience. This team does not have a true center. They're not really a big team. They're going to live and die by that shooting. If they're off on the 3-point, it's going to be a bad night. It's going to be tough for them to win, especially if they can't hit free throws. It's going to be really tough. But like I said, this team, just because of the one loss, not in a bad position. Let's get some redemption versus TCU and keep rolling to December. Let's start for our segment number 3, final segment of the night, and that talks about our picks against the spread. There's a big game coming on this weekend, and that is the Ohio State Buckeyes versus number 2 Ohio State Buckeyes versus the number 9 Penn State. Ohio State coming out Monday night as an 18-point favorite. Compared to Clemson, I don't know if Penn State can hang with a team that's very close to Clemson in a top overall offense and a top overall defense. It was a tight game last year against Ohio State and Penn State, but this year looks like the spread's going to say it's going to be kind of a blowout for Ohio State. Let's start with the big game, Al. I know you're kind of like, what in the world is he talking about? But let's start with a big game. Normally we start with ACC teams, but let's start with the big one. Ohio State, Penn State. Penn State goes to Ohio State. Going to be tough. Road conference games late in the season is going to be tough to win. What are your thoughts about that game?
Yeah, I mean, on paper, it just really doesn't seem like Penn State can hang in this game. Obviously, you've got Ohio State is the number 2 team in the country. A lot of speed, a lot of athleticism there. I think it's a lot different than the Ohio State teams we've seen in the past. I really think they're a much better team this year. That's just a big number for a rivalry game, especially when Penn State is a respectable team this year. I mean, heck, they were ranked number 4, just a couple short weeks ago. And I think this is Penn State's only hope to jump back into the playoff picture somehow if they can win this game and, win the championship in the Big Ten. So I think they can keep this game close enough just to make Ohio State uncomfortable, which they have not been in quite a while. So I'm going to take the Nittany Lions to cover with the 18.
Oh, wow. I wasn't thinking you were going to go with that. I really wasn't. That was a surprise. Maybe that's why I've been climbing up that ranking list. I'll let you know as far as our ACC and big top 25 rankings for our Yahoo Pick'em. Allen is 173 and 105, and I'm 165 and 113. So Allen's 62% and I'm 59%. Just a few weeks ago, I was 57%. So I'm moving up. Allen is also moving up, though, too. So, Al, you got to lose some games that I win, and hopefully this is going to be one of them. So, because if you're picking Penn State, I'm picking Ohio State to come out and destroy them. I think Penn State is one of those teams that Clemson needs on their schedule because they're one of those teams that because of who they are, they get ranked early on in the season high, and they seem to just always stay there. If the ACC just had a few teams that could be 8-win teams, just had a few teams, and I'm not talking like 8-win by the end of the year. I'm talking about like 8 wins early on, like early 8-win teams, and Clemson played them. Then that's what Clemson needs. I mean, if Penn State was in the Coastal, you wouldn't be able to tell them any different than any other team over there. This is going to be a team where Ohio State's going to be able to say, oh, we beat a top 10 team. It's going to be great. I get it, but Penn State's not a top 10 team in my eyes. I think that they're easily beatable by any elite team. Ohio State's an elite team. Clemson's an elite team. I'm going with the blowout on this one, Al. Like I said, it's going to be like Ohio State playing an average Coastal team. So give me Ohio State covering the 18. I know it's a big point difference here late in the season, but they are at home, so I'm giving them that too. At home, you got to give them a touchdown, I think.
That's fair.
And then, I think they're definitely better than Penn State, so I'm going to say that. Moving back to the ACC, kind of more traditional, starting off with a Thursday night game. It seems like NC State, Georgia Tech play Thursday night games like every week, but NC State at Georgia Tech. Georgia Tech minus 1.5. I kind of scratched my head on that one. Georgia Tech minus 1.5. What you got?
Look, I'm taking the Yellow Jackets minus the 1.5. They've been playing better ball as of late. I think NC State is just in absolute shambles. So I'm definitely going to go with the Yellow Jackets and Jeff Collins to kind of take the win here, maybe by a touchdown or so, and kind of get the Jackets on, trying to get on the right foot starting in the next season.
I'm going against you on this one too. I think that NC State can do just enough. Give me the points, 1.5. They have a better rushing defense. This year I've always talked about that rushing defense. Georgia Tech's quarterbacks, no good. They mainly rush the ball. NC State can hold them, I believe. Both teams are 1-4 in their last 5 games, so they're both garbage teams. But, I mean, when it's garbage team versus garbage team, give me the plus. Let's see what happens. Next up is Liberty at Virginia. This is one that I think everybody's expecting. This is one of the 3 last games for Virginia that is a home game, so it's a good lineup for Virginia. But UVA minus 18.5. I think UVA can win, but can they win by more than 18.5?
Yeah, Liberty's kind of shown the propensity to score some points this year. The Cavaliers need to be careful kind of looking ahead to next week's matchup against the Hokies. But in the end, I think they're just too much for Liberty, and I'm going to take Virginia minus the points.
Everybody's getting on to me about this Ohio State thing, saying they're not elite. They're a top 5 total offense, top 5 total defense. I think that they're elite. They have more than one weapon on offense, and their defense consistently has been good. And, thank goodness that Chase Young got a loan from his friend or a friend of the family so he can play in the last 2 games of the season. Go figure he doesn't get to play against Rutgers and Maryland. Go figure. But I digress. I'm taking actually Liberty on this one. Liberty is giving up a lot of yards, so I know Virginia's going to score on them. But Virginia's kind of played some tough games recently, and I know that Liberty can actually score. I'm gonna go out on a limb on this one. I'm gonna say that Virginia wins but doesn't cover. So give me Liberty plus the points on this one. Next up, Boston College at number 15, Notre Dame. Notre Dame minus 19. A.J. Dillon's over or almost 1,500 yards rushing this year and 13 touchdowns, so a bright spot for BC. Do you think that they have enough to keep it within the 19 or maybe even win the game?
I don't. The Fighting Irish kind of had a big statement win last week against a ranked Navy team when they absolutely drilled Navy. I believe the line was minus 9.5 last week or 7.5 or something like that. It was one of the ones you not so fasted me on, by the way, during the pick segment when you went with Navy. And obviously a huge cover for Notre Dame. A lot of people thought they had a chance to pull an upset. Navy was kind of, in that range where a lot of people thought they kind of had something for them, and that just wasn't the case. Give me Notre Dame with a big win over an inferior Boston College team. I'm taking the Fighting Irish minus the 19.
Yeah, really got me on that one, Al. I'm going to have to say my veterans over there, my Navy guys, the seamen, they let me down. And, just disappointed me, just destroyed. I went 16-6-1 over the weekend. You went 17-5-1. So ridiculous, man. And I started out 7-0 again. My 12 p.m. games, I'm on point. I was 7-0, 12 p.m. games. Gets harder, man. Those 10:30 games, those 7:30 games, tough for me to win those. I can't figure those out yet. But I'm actually going with Boston College on this one too. I got to make some big moves, man. There's only 2 weeks left. This week and next week, and then it's over. I have no other chance. So you're about, I think, what was it? How many are you ahead of me? 8. Maybe. You're 8 ahead of me. So I got to win some games. I can't pick the same teams you're picking because it's not going to work for me with 2 weeks left. So I'm going with this again. I'm going Boston College plus the 19. I think that BC can control the clock enough with that giant run game that they have. They definitely can't stop anybody. I'm not saying anything about their defense, but I think they can control the clock. Next up, North Carolina or Mercer at North Carolina. It's off. We already talked about Sam Howell. Moving on from that, Syracuse at Louisville. Louisville minus 8.5. I think this is closer because of how well Syracuse did against Duke. What you think?
Look, Syracuse absolutely crushed the Blue Devils last week, like we talked about on the road, but that's kind of been the exception rather than the rule this year. The Orange have not kind of lived up to the preseason hype they had. I'm not saying, people thought they were going to be a top 10 team or anything like that, but they were expected to have a good year. That's not happened. I'm looking for Syracuse to fall back off the cliff. Give me Louisville minus the points.
All right. I'm with you on this one. I think Syracuse, DeVito had a great game. Didn't really have that many passing yards. 2 passing touchdowns, 1 rushing touchdown. Louisville, think about this, Al. 2 wins last year. Could be on pace to win 8 games this year. What a turnaround.
Yeah.
Is Louisville's coach, Scott Satterfield, the coach of the year, or is Justin Fuente at Virginia Tech the coach of the year? That's my question. Who is the coach of the year in your eyes? I'm going with Scott.
I am as well. Yeah, I think they were supposed to be just an absolute atrocity this year. After last year, I mean, they were one of the worst teams around in the entire country, and I'm really impressed with what Satterfield's done there. I think he's going to have a lot of people come calling for him at the end of this year.
I take Louisville to cover. Next up, Miami at Florida International. Interesting, Miami at Florida International.
Mm-hmm.
Miami giving 18.5 at Marlins Park. You know, they're used to that park there. Also, Florida International's coach, Butch Davis. Fighting for bowl eligibility right now. The Hurricanes are fighting for that bowl eligibility. They're 5-5, trying to get in. What do you think? Or no, excuse me, FIU is fighting for bowl eligibility, so it's important for them to try to get one win before these last two games. What do you think?
Yeah, although Miami, like so many of the coastal teams, has been impossible to figure out this year, I think there's simply too big a talent gap to kind of mess this one up. Miami's defense will lead the way in a big win over Florida International. I'm going to take the Hurricanes minus the points.
I gotta take some risks. I see that double-digit spread, and I'm like, give me it. So, as you noticed, I didn't take the single-digit spread. I took the double-digit before. I'm taking it again. Give me FIU plus 18.5, if nothing more than the fact that the quarterback's last name is Morgan.
Oh, even worse.
You got to go with that, baby. He is a winner. You know it. You can't deny it. So I'm going with him, 18.5. Next up, Duke.
Just watch out for his ACL.
You had to go there?
I did.
Really?
I had to do it. Sorry.
That was personal.
All right. Below the belt. I'll try to keep the gloves up.
Let's see if your ankle can keep up in this last ACC pick here. All right, Al.
Which one?
These aren't important games, so you'll make these. You'll just be out for the important games. But anyways. Duke at Wake Forest. Wake minus 6.5. It's kind of hard to say. Duke has completely went stupid with their offense. Don't know what to do. David Cutcliffe came out and said it's going to take more than a week to figure this out. He said he's going to have to go back to the drawing board and start reading books on offense to try to figure this out. I mean, when a head coach starts saying he's going to have to go to the library to fix this offense, and maybe Duke's the best library to go to.
Yeah.
But Wake minus 6.5, even with all of their injuries. What do you think?
Look, yeah, even without Sage Surratt, which is a great player for Wake, I really was looking forward to seeing the test that he was going to bring with Washington as well as Hinton to the receiving corps to Clemson. Obviously, we didn't get to see that this past week. But even with those injuries, there's no way I'm betting on this Duke team the way they've looked down the stretch run. They have really disappointed me. I bet on them early in the season, and they did well for me. I've been betting on them at the end, and they've really been making me come out on the bad end of things. So I'm not even going anywhere near Duke. I am taking Wake to cover.
Yeah, Newman had a terrible game against Clemson. As we said before, he lost his wide receivers. He's lost his linebackers. But again, Duke has no offensive linemen left. I think just about every one of their starters has been hurt, out for at least a game. Two just really badly bruised up, beat up teams. Makes you very thankful for what Clemson has been able to do. But I think Wake is going to recover at home after that beat up from Clemson and give me Wake to win and cover the 6.5. Last ACC game of the night. This is the one that we kind of wanted to get into a little bit further. Pittsburgh at number 25, Virginia Tech. Looks like Virginia Tech is minus 3 right now. So the favorite at home, which I think you'd be expected there. Pittsburgh has that better rushing defense, but it is at Lane Stadium. And, man, Bud Foster is about to go out on fire in his farewell season. What you think?
Yeah, like I've mentioned recently, I'm begrudgingly high on the Hokies right now. I really liked it when I could hate them early in the year, and I could pick them to kind of be closer games with Furman and things like that in Old Dominion, and kind of beat them with the spread there. Kind of like you did, the double-digit spreads. I like the underdog there. I was doing that earlier in the year, and it was really working out for me, but they've been playing a lot better ball. They know they have to win at home this week and beat the Cavaliers, and they're in. Okay, all they got to do is win the next two games. They are the Coastal champions. All right, so I'm gonna roll with Virginia Tech here. Say they get it done. I'm gonna take them not only to win but to cover the 3 points.
Not very many points, but again, I'm down 8 to the big dog over here to my left.
Yeah,
I'm down 8 to the big dog on my left, so I got to make some moves here. I really feel like both teams have a chance to win the Coastal. You can't sleep on Pittsburgh. They could win and still get in. I mean, they're not in control of everything, but they could still win out and have a chance to get into that championship game. When it comes to a tiebreaker, don't even ask me. Don't even ask me because my head starts to hurt. I thought about it this morning, and I can't do it. But I think Virginia Tech wins. I'm not so sure that they win by 3, even 3. I think it's going to be close. Might even be an overtime game. I mean, you can't say that you're shocked that a team wins. A team in the Coastal goes to the overtime. Now, granted, an overtime would
not be good for you.
It would not be good for me, but I could see it happening. I'm just saying. I'm thinking what could happen. It would be a push if Pitt won by a field goal. I get it, but it could happen. I think it's going to be close. I think it's going to be like a 1 or 2 point win for Virginia Tech, but Pitt covers. So give me Pitt. All right, now we're going to go into our ranked, and then we'll be done for the night. We appreciate everybody for supporting us over on Facebook and YouTube. Some people saying I'm lazy over here picking a guy named Morgan. That's never lazy because I picked the guy named Morgan over in Minnesota against Penn State and see what happened. Now, the next week he, completely just, lost. But, hey, we're at least good for one big game in the season. All right, so we talked about Penn State, Ohio State. Mm-hmm. Really, the only other ranked versus ranked is that one team that Clemson used to get knocked on for not being ranked, but now is ranked. So you've got 24 Texas A&M at number 4, the Dogs, Georgia Bulldogs, UGA minus 13.5 starting out the gate. As Evan was saying, offense still trying to figure things out. It's late in the season. Doesn't seem to be very explosive like we anticipated. But their defense has been pretty stout. So Texas A&M, on the other hand, they've quietly won now. They're 7-3. But they have 2 really tough last games of the year. They've got to go to Georgia this weekend, and then they've got to turn around and go to LSU. Yep. So it's not going to be fun to be a Texas A&M fan or player. You're going to get beat up these next 2 weeks. But what you got in this game?
Look, I want all the UGA fans to pay attention right now and take notice of what I'm about to say. All right, I will never utter the words that you said last show, okay? All right, but I am taking them to cover. I think their defense is going to be too much for the Aggies. I think they'll muster just enough offense to kind of be comfortable going down the stretch of that game. I'm taking the Dogs minus the points at home.
Everybody is just jumping on me about picking these underdogs. Listen, I'm telling you, you look at the percentages. You got to pick underdogs. I'm 59% against the spread. Yeah, you got to pick underdogs, guys. Don't say I'm crazy. I mean, when the start of the season, I didn't pick a ton of underdogs, and it hurt me. You got to look at it and say, hey, these teams can win, but can they win by 13? And you got to look at these scores. 13.5, guess what? That's not 13.5. That's not 14. They got to win by like 17. That they got to get that many points. They got to get 2 touchdowns and a field goal. It's not, if they get a touchdown and 2 field goals, that's not enough. So, you got to think about it that way. Can they get 2 touchdowns and a field goal? And, for this game, Georgia, I think, are they looking ahead to the SEC championship game? Well, I don't think so. I mean, they've got that kind of break game against Georgia Tech. Yeah. I don't think they're going to have any problems against Georgia Tech. Like Evan said, I think they're going to win out for the season. Texas A&M is a team that can put points on people other than Clemson, but can't seem to actually win a ton of the big games. Now, they can beat up Arkansas of the world, which is a lot of these SEC teams' claim to fame, to be honest with you. A lot of these 7-win SEC teams are like beating up on, the bottom feeders of the SEC. But, this is a game that Georgia, I think, is going to be focused on. They know now that Alabama is Tua-less. They're seeing what's going on. They kind of have their eyes set on LSU. They know that they're in control. They own the SEC East. And you know what I love to say? They have a better rushing defense than Texas A&M. Texas A&M really doesn't have any rushing game at all, and it's at home. Now we know Georgia likes to have problems when they're at home against inferior teams, as we saw earlier in the year. And I know what you're telling me. I already see it. I just glanced. They lost to the Gamecocks at home. But this is championship season right now. This is championship phase. Separation Saturday, as my dad likes to say. Big dogs are playing. And I believe Georgia takes care of business in this sense. I think they're going to beat Texas A&M and cover the spread. So give me Georgia on that one. And that's it for the picks of the night. I know finally, Chad's like, I agree with you on that one. Thank you, Chad, for agreeing with me on that one. But you got to understand, not only do you have to pick underdogs, but Allen's ahead of me by 8 games. So I gotta pull some out of the hat here. I gotta go on a limb here, try to win some. So I'm more trying to game it here. I would not recommend this to put your hard-earned Monday through Friday money on, okay? So that's my disclaimer there. But I appreciate the support, Al. We still got 22 strong over on YouTube, and a lot of people giving us their picks there. I love the support, guys.
Yeah, a lot of people getting in with their picks. Al's obviously does a great job as always getting his picks in. Agreeing, I think he agrees with me on most of his picks, it seems like, this week. So congrats to Al for being correct as usual. No, I think we're showing about 14 on Facebook, so it's good to kind of close the show. A lot of people still kind of hanging in there with us. Again, like Morgan said, we really appreciate all your support. We want you to join us every Monday night at 8:30. We love hearing your guys' reaction, getting your guys' comments, especially on the comments on Facebook. That's what I'm watching. Morgan's watching YouTube. We want to get your kind of thoughts, your joke of the day, whatever you want to tell us about. We want to hear it. Especially get it on the phone line. We try to answer as many comments and questions as we can when we see it in the comments, but you're almost for sure to get on the air if you call on the phone line, okay? So call the Buffalo Wild Wings hotline. We want to talk to you. We want to get your thoughts there too as well. So again, as always, we really appreciate all the love and support.
We're going to take this show as far as we can take it. We've got a partnership right now with the Roar. So, the Monday night show comes on live 8:30 p.m. every Monday night. We do this show, Facebook and YouTube. Then tomorrow night, I'll do the editing. I'll get it all together. I'll send it over to John Haidt at the Roar. Him and Ben Milstead will throw it up Thursday nights, 8 p.m., barring any basketball games. And then you'll see it over on our podcast. If you like any podcasts or you miss anything part of the show and you'd rather just hear the audio, you can check out a podcast, Apple, Google, iHeartRadio, Spotify, basically everywhere podcast you can find it. I know a lot of people wanted that, and so we brought it to you so you can watch this video. You can watch us live video. You can watch us audio on the radio or audio on podcasts. And then we put the clips up too. I kind of like chunk up everything. So if you miss any one section, you can go back on our YouTube channel or Facebook page and check out our one section. Again, over on Twitter, I put my rants out there. I do not endorse my own rants. All right. So sometimes I don't know what I'm saying, but it's fun. So go check us out. Support us anywhere you can or anywhere you're on social media. We appreciate it again. Chad saying he watches the show every week, but this is the first time live. Man, thank you so much for joining the live show, Chad. There is a phone number, man. Get in, call us. We'd love to talk to you live for sure. What's the Tigers' favorite food? Fried chicken. That's for sure. Just hold tight. On Turkey Week, we'll be eating that fried chicken. But appreciate you so much, Facebook and YouTube. That's it for this week. I'm Morgan Thomas.
And I'm Alan Adams.
And as always, Tiger fans, we'll see you at the top of the hill.